lunchtime smoke. A custom-built, later vintage. Let's see. Can that be seen? I don't know. Nice crisp rustication though, huh? And that unique custom-built routery. I mean, some companies will try and replicate that, but I don't know. It's pretty unique. Custom-built imported briar. Smoking some Captain Earl's Night Watch. That's really old and dried up. This is kind of a mercy smoke. You know, smoke it. Don't throw it away. It's so dry though. So, I don't know. So had some excitement this week in the hood out at Big Valley. Drama. So I've got a legal easement. It's been surveyed. I pay taxes on it. That comes in to the Big Valley property from the main road. And it's also the driveway for what was the original farmstead of this property. Side note, in talking about all this stuff yesterday in the office, see, it's a small world, I love it. This guy, a great guy, who works there, is related to a variety of people involved in the original farmstead. So I asked him about Larry. I told him that, he had slashed my tires a couple of times. And he said, oh yeah, a couple of years ago during the winter, he was getting some dementia and he wandered off into the woods and succumbed to hypothermia. So Larry is gone. He came to my mind. He's the one who tried to take the bridge out, took out survey monuments, slashed my truck tires, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, part of a family history there of slashing tires. Weird. Hillbilly land. But anyway, my easement comes in and is the driveway for the old farmhouse, and there was a big barn there. They raised cattle there. It's currently on 17 acres. I tried to buy it, actually, but it was bought, when I bought mine, it was owned by a bank on the East Coast somewhere, and I could never talk to anybody. I couldn't contact anybody about buying it. So finally, it came up for sale for 3 times the price that I was willing to pay. And actually, a friend of mine who works from the county, see how this is all related, bought it. He was retired at that point, and I think he'd come into a little money, maybe the death of his parents, I don't know, who knows. Anyway, he bought the place, 17 acres with the farmhouse, and the bank, it seems to me, had taken down the barn because it was a hazard. So anyway, they had already done that. So anyway, my friend who bought the place had met this guy who was a Iraqi war vet, and he was kind of down on his luck and needed a place to live. So Greg said, okay, well, here's the farmhouse. It's in terrible condition. There is a well there. There is electricity. There is septic. So Jim moved in, and he had a junk business, a scrap metal business. And of course that makes all kinds of messes, piles of scrap metal and all kinds of stuff constantly coming and going. And Jim had some health issues. During the Iraqi war, he was injured. He had some bad back surgeries, and so he walked kind of like Quasimodo. Whoops, sorry, that was my other phone. Kind of bent down. And so strong as a bull. In his 40s. Actually, it turns out he was 50. Had a kid who had gotten into trouble and was in prison. And, But a real prince of a guy, actually. He was, I came to really like him a lot. And whenever I'd pull in there to mow or whatever, I'd stop and we'd chat for 15 or 20 minutes. And, just visit. Great guy. So he was living there, and Greg wanted somebody living there, and I agree. It was a good idea to do that. And so in the last several years, Jim and I would text each other, just about various stuff. I would text him interesting pictures from the game cams out there. He would talk about this crazy guy who lived up on the far hillside that would be yelling at all hours, and there was smoke from his camp. He was homeless, living in the woods. And the game cams captured him a few times. And mysteriously, one of the game cams, the farther out one, disappeared. And occasionally the SD cards would be missing. So, as far as I knew and evidence presented on the game cams, the crazy guy on the hill was the only one who ever kind of came through there. So, but I considered him to be just like harmless, living in the woods for whatever reason, people have for doing that. So on Saturday, this is Thursday, I got a text from Greg saying, oh, bad news. I had called Jim for a couple days trying to get a hold of him. And unlike him, it wasn't successful. He normally calls back. So I went out there and found him dead on the ground. What? So Greg said the sheriff may contact you to look at your game cam footage. So I thought, yeah, absolutely, let's get to the bottom of this. The coroner was going to determine if he was killed or if he just died naturally. Maybe had a heart attack, keeled over, who knows. So Monday, the sheriff called me and said, hey, could we look at those game cams? And I said, absolutely. So I ran out there, and it was a beautiful sunny day. And we walked out to the game cams, and they were both missing. So, okay, well, no game cam pics. So whenever I download the game cam pictures, if there's something kind of fun, like a bobcat or a cougar or like a coyote laid down right in front of the game camera, so that's happened a few times, I will save those. And so I have like a directory that's the month and the year. So So I started looking through some of the old photos, and sure enough, I captured the guy, crazy guy on the hill, in the past, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So I sent those to the sheriff. I sent some of Jim's texts to me, to them, just to get a flavor of, you know, what Jim was thinking of about all that. And so on Tuesday evening, they did kind of a SWAT thing up above me off the main highway up there. There's a ball field complex up there too. And there were like 30 cop cars and a SWAT team and the state patrol aircraft flying overhead. And apparently some shots were fired. Crazy guy had a gun or two and fired some shots, whether it was at the sheriff's or the SWAT team, who knows? I don't know. But they nabbed him. So, you know, all this, we all watch NCIS shows, you know, I think everybody has at one point. And so it had that flavor kind of on a small scale. And it made the statewide network news. I don't know that it was made national news. But anyway, whether crazy guy on the hill was the one who actually, and it turns out Jim was killed. It was not a natural death. And I don't know what the mechanism of injury was. So, yeah. So there's a search warrant. I got a call this morning from the sheriff saying, hey, we'd like to do a search warrant on your property. We don't think there's any evidence there really, but you know, would you be opposed to that? And I said, hell no, come on in. You know, do whatever you need to do. So we'll see what happens here. Was it crazy guy on the hill who murdered Jim for whatever reason? Did Jim confront him? I don't know. I have no idea. But it's like this unfolding crime scene. So the crazy guy on the hill was 35. Pretty clean cut, you know. I mean, really normal looking. And in the game cam photos, he's always his clothes are very clean. He's got a haircut. He's clean shaven. He's kind of skinny and looks like a college kid, kind of. Not a ruffian at all. So, you know, preconceived notions of homeless aren't always, and, you know, it spans the gamut. So, I think of all the times I was out there by myself mowing, you know, you just don't. So that's what these things tend to do, is they tend to create this cognitive dissonance in our brains, because we just kind of move along, you know, like everything's fine, it's all going to be fine, it's always going to be fine. And I have nothing to worry about except, you know, what I'm going to have for dinner tonight, or, you know, whatever. And it's kind of that way when we drive a car on the roads. You know, we just take it for granted that everybody's following the rules and wants to live as much as we do. And so they don't want to drive into us, cross over the yellow line and crash into us. We just take that for granted, and that allows us to go about our merry way and do what we need to do. Now, if you've been in an accident, I'm sure the cognitive dissonance is hard to get rid of. There was an Air India accident with a Boeing 787 in Ahmedabad, India, on takeoff. And so that's the kind of cognitive dissonance that pops up. You know, it's like, oh, what happened there? First fatality crash with a 787, but it's had its issues, you know, quality-wise, structure-wise, engines, batteries, you name it. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see what the result of that is. Is it pilot error? Who knows? I don't know. But it creates that cognitive dissonance, like, oh, is it as safe to fly as it was? I was taking it for granted that it was the safest mechanism of transportation available to us all. And it probably still is, honestly. I mean, millions of miles per accident, you know. Anyway, yeah, feeling that cognitive dissonance, it expresses itself as a kind of a sense of vulnerability, you know. And honestly, we should probably have a little more to be reasonable, but not to be paranoid. So there's that fine line, you know, between I can't leave the house because it's so dangerous versus la 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 la, I'm going to live forever, nothing's going to happen to me. You know, so but really sad about Jim, because he was a great guy. I mean, just a big heart. He was a lot of fun, smart guy. I really enjoyed getting to know him, and I will miss him. I'll think of him every time I'm out there. So Jim, here's a smoke to you. Yeah, so you just never know, you know, what's gonna be totally unexpected out of the blue. I'm laughing now, but it was like, oh wow, this is really something happening here. I'm sure all the people around the world are saying, yeah, but it's America, what do you expect? You know, violence, gun violence, you know, everybody has a gun, multiple guns, you know, it's like, what, you know, what else can you expect? Crazy people have guns. Yeah, well, certainly true. However, I will point out the recent incidents in Graz, Austria, with the gun violence, home of the Glock, by the way. So, but yeah, I mean, the gun thing continues to be a polarizing element. Am I going to start carrying? I do have a concealed carry permit. It's really uncomfortable to be carrying a gun, if you ask me. And I just don't see the need, especially, presumably, I mean, if it was Crazy Guy on the Hill, I mean, he's probably put away for a while after eluding the police and firing shots, and, you know, so whether or not he murdered Jim is, I don't know. He'll be away for a while. And Larry, tire slashing guy next door, he had sold out several years ago, and now he's gone, I found out. So I had always wondered if I'd have some continuing negative interaction with him, but apparently not. You can wait him out. Anyway, some excitement at Big Valley.